I'm trying to think. Well, there you go. Good morning, y'all. Welcome to the Coach's Cup. Sonya has thrown me under the bus. And she just pressed play. Record.
Sometimes you just have to get things going.
I was stalling and him-hawing around. And she said, I heard the little voice said, the recording has started. Welcome to the Coach's Cup. I'm Coach Judith Fender with the No BS Weight Loss Program.
And I am Sonya Green from Sonya Green Coaching.
We're glad y'all are here this morning. Sorry. So this podcast comes on the tail ends of, I just forgot the name of the one we just did.
Me too.
I know. Don't take things personally. So this one is our words, our power. That's O-U-R, our power. Mm-hmm. And where we're going with that, because so that for clarity purposes, because in the previous podcast, we talked about not taking things personally, not taking people's words personally, the sentences they say, the things we read, the words they say, the actions they do, to not take them personally. And now we're going to take this back a step, because what we mean by our words being our power is it's the way we speak to ourselves and the words we give others and how we choose to use our words.
Yeah. I always think about, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And that goes for us too. We don't take that. So many times people do not take the axiom for themselves. And so they'll say just things like, oh, I was so stupid. I hate hearing people say stuff like that. I hate it.
Right. And how many clients have we coached?
Mm-hmm.
And we hear, right? And I want to normalize this, first of all, without judgment. We want to normalize. We all have the inner critic.
Yes.
And the goal of this podcast would be, one, to normalize it, and two, to realize it and harness the thinking with love.
Yes.
And how to acknowledge and recognize that it is just the inner critic, that it is just your thinking and not a truth, and to find your way to self-love, to back to center, however you want to say it. At some point, I had said to Sonya off recording that, there's so many parts of this thought work for me that it gets to a spiritual level. Mm-hmm. And that's when I think about the words that we say to ourselves. And I'm really coaching myself right here in this moment, like the words we say to ourselves and how the impact they have on our self-trust, our self-being, our self-love. I mean, it impacts everything. And we kind of read through the 4 agreements, and where, the first agreement is being impeccable with your words. And I love how do you say his name?
Don Miguel Ruiz.
That impeccable means without sin, and it really means without sin to the self. Because in No BS land, when Corinne teaches us about, we're just punching ourselves in our face, right? That negative self-talk, when we're believing those shitty thoughts, that's what we're doing. But to get to that place, and we all have it, that we would never speak to our children the way, or our neighbors or our friends. I would never say to you, Sonya, the things I have going on in my head about myself.
Right. And I love the fact that you said at the beginning, we want to normalize that inner critic, because our brains have a propensity to go to the negative,
Right.
right?
It's about survival.
Yes.
It's programmed in us
Yes.
to go to the negative.
Yes. And I think about, if I say something like, I'm so stupid, which is that's the one that just, I think it makes me cringe, because there's just so much underneath that. It's easy to say really flippantly, but I always feel like there's so much underneath that. But I think about it, if I say that I'm so stupid, that's kind of like, when two dogs meet and one of them flips over on their back and exposes their belly so that they can show that they're not a threat to the
Vulnerable.
other dog. Yeah.
Mhm.
That, I think that's kind of that's kind of a silly example maybe, but that's how I think of a statement like that. We say that to people to kind of show our vulnerability,
Oh,
to show our weakness, almost before, so they can't find it. It's better that I just expose it right away rather than you finding it, because then I can let you know. I already know. I'm stupid. I already know I'm not good enough. Here you go. No threat.
so I'm
Sorry.
laughing because if we all just showed up that way,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Like just
I mean,
assume.
I guess. I don't know. Let's do it. Let's do it with, I love you. Let's show our vulnerability that way
Right. Yeah.
rather than I'm so stupid, or
Because our words are our guides.
yes.
If we were to if we, our words have power, we speak our words out loud. I ask my husband to stop by the grocery store and get something, and he does it.
Mm-hmm.
My words have power. I asked, he
Right.
chose, and I have the same control within my brain to ask myself to choose to not think this way or not believe that thought,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing it as optional and choosing to speak better to myself, that there is choice in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, the first thing that people, I think everybody listening to this podcast already knows this, but we get to choose our thoughts, and we get to decide whether or not we're going to believe our thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They, just because we think them, they are not necessarily true.
Yeah.
And so, how much power do we have with how we choose to think and talk about ourselves?
Mm-hmm. We have a lot.
We have all the power.
Mm-hmm. So we need to be careful. I'm like checking out my notes here of what we mutter to ourselves. That's mutter, not mudder.
Yeah.
I'm sure both would work.
Yeah.
Sling some mud. And stop the talk that destroys and degrades, and talk yourself out of it. You could talk yourself into it, like be your own cheerleader. Talk yourself into new beliefs. Good job. Great job. You did it. You're on top of things.
That's celebrating ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that was a very foreign, just completely weird. Like,
Martian language.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's one that I have, understood the power of over the last 2 years that we've been coaching.
I have to say, you are really good at that. Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I notice it. Mm-hmm.
Because it is something that I have had to develop, and I have worked with a lot of my clients, working with already high achieving women. You would think that we were a group of people to whom that came naturally.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how are we so high achieving otherwise? But no, we all think we're high achieving because we never believe we're good enough.
Coming from that lack, right?
It's coming from that place of scarcity. So using those words instead to celebrate just the little things, the tiny little things. I made a plan for what I was going to accomplish today. And it's noon, and I have accomplished the 2 things that I was supposed to have done by noon. Wow, I've got my own back.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Yeah.
It seems silly. It sounds really weird to say, but saying it out, you can say it out loud. I like to say it out loud.
Yeah.
I have told you before, I do a lot of talking to myself in the car.
Mhm.
I do a lot of that pep talk stuff in the car. Mel
Mhm.
Robbins says we should say it in the mirror. I
Yep.
think there's some
Yep.
power in
I
that.
have. Ooh.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. But just changing that inner dialogue.
Yeah.
I thought you were going somewhere. I was trying to hurry up because you look like you wanted to say something.
Oh, no. So, so you were saying, another way to work on this is writing your sentences down. You seeing them, putting the sticky notes in places, putting it in your phone, reminders to check in with yourself. Sometimes I will work with my private clients and have them do like hourly check-ins.
Yes.
Just check in with yourself and see what's going on with that dialogue, and spend a little time reframing those thoughts.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I think it is imperative when somebody is just getting started with this to set a timer on their phone. You can set multiple timers throughout the day or multiple alarms throughout the day. Set one of those
Mhm. Mhm.
2 or 3
Great.
times during the day and just stop. All
Mhm.
right, what am I thinking right now? How am I feeling? If I'm
Mhm.
feeling negative, why am I feeling that? I mean, you bring that up. The
Yeah.
feeling hits you first.
That's what I notice first. And that's
So,
how I check in. Mhm.
yeah, if I'm feeling negative, I need to interrogate that.
Mhm. And I will do a practice I have is in between my clients is finding that space to clear my space before I go in with another client, and
Yeah.
being in that open place to serve them. And again, thinking that back to this spirituality component, at least for me, because when we think that our words honor who we are,
Yes.
and we can honor others with our words and how we speak to them, and choosing not to gossip. Because I mean, I'm not going to lie, there was a time and period, and I'm sure all of our lives, where we've all been wanting to gossip and say things about others. But when we realize that it just really doesn't serve us or them to engage in that negativity, because it's not honoring the self or others in
Yes.
those moments.
Yes. And that, just saying that, it's one of those things that sounds simple, but
Uh-huh.
it can really be tough.
It truth.
I heard something about someone recently, and my first thought was, oh my goodness, I need to tell so and so. My second thought was,
Mm.
no, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I heard it. I don't know it for a fact. And I am choosing not to say anything about it
Yeah.
because I'm going to, number one, honor that person because I don't know that it's true. But even more importantly, honor my own integrity, honor my own values, and not speak negatively, because we've been talking about, speaking positively about ourselves, but when we speak negatively about other people, we talked last week
Mm-hmm.
about where that comes from. That comes from a lack in our own lives. And so
Mm-hmm.
if I am speaking negatively about someone else, I am also removing my power.
Yes. Yes. And when we choose to speak honorably to ourselves, and the power that language has is it has the power to change that our behaviors. And when our behaviors change, we get the results that we want.
Yeah.
And the power of our language is the power to change our life, period.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because our language comes first, but it shapes our actions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's knowing that so often I think we're quick to give that power away,
Mm-hmm.
to blame or to, or to,
Comparison.
yes.
I mean, we touched a little bit on comparison, but it was in sidebar.
Mhm.
But when we compare ourselves to others, it's another version of punching yourself in the face and taking your eye off your goal and your goodness and your worth and your value.
Yes. And it's a natural, well, I don't know that it's
Oh,
natural. It
it's
is certainly
normal.
a cultural instinct.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine a culture that doesn't do it, but maybe it exists.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've only lived here.
Yeah. Right. I know that here we are very based in comparison,
Yeah. Yeah.
but comparison often comes from a lack of self-trust.
Think about that one for a minute.
If a negative comparison comes from a lack of self-trust, let me reevaluate that.
Well, you know, I'm just going to go with yes because I'm thinking about this, but I think it also is, especially let's just talk about like in the coaching world,
Mhm.
right? And what we do and how we see there are coaches everywhere.
Uh-huh.
And when we compare, I've never done that. LOL. I
Yeah.
have. It's usually not coming from a space of, I really admire her.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's more coming from, well, how did she do that? I don't
It's
even know
coming
that
from
that's bad.
scarcity.
Yeah. And it doesn't feel good in my body. It's when I'm not
Right.
feeling good.
Yes.
And I can catch myself. I think because I've coached so many clients on, it's so easy to be a coach and we can hear that language. We can identify it, especially in weight loss. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But in myself, I'm catching it so much better than I ever have. And I see and I speak that there is value. Y'all hear my words. Do not compare yourself to others. If you are, check in with yourself. Get your eyes back on your own paper. Take your power back.
Yeah. Well, and I say that it comes from a lack of self-trust because it comes from scarcity.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, that comparison comes from scarcity. I'm afraid I'm not as good
I'm
as
not doing it right.
I'm not doing it right. There's so many things that we are afraid we're lacking in some way or another. If we're coming from a place of abundance, then I don't know that I even call it comparison anymore. If I'm coming from a place of abundance, then I am looking at them with admiration. Wow, they're killing it out there.
Yeah.
And it's not because I'm looking at me thinking I need to be killing it like they are. It's because I am genuinely admiring what they're doing.
Which is interesting for me. The longest time, I mean, maybe even until like last year, the story I always told myself was, I didn't grow up in an academic family. And my story was I was always looking to my peers and, kind of like seeing who I wanted to be with and where I wanted to be and go to school.
Mhm.
And so, and it wasn't a comparison, but in essence, it was because I placed myself strategically because it's where I wanted to be. And so in some version, I think there is, I don't know, there is some version of this that is normal. Like, this is where I want to be. And I admire this about them. And I want to be here.
Yeah.
That it's just, it could be strategic.
Absolutely.
And that can be okay because I mean, we all do. And that could be from that place of abundance. If you're looking to not squash somebody, but to elevate yourself,
Uh-huh.
right? To find another way. I don't
Mhm.
know.
Yeah, I think anytime we're looking for a way to build ourselves up. And it has to start with our own words, right?
Mhm.
We
Yeah.
have to be impeccable with our own words,
Yeah. Not tearing me down.
right?
Mhm.
Not tearing them down,
Right.
finding a place of what's the word I'm looking for?
I'm always looking for structure.
Yeah,
Give me some structure. I need some structure.
yeah,
I
and maybe
think-
a level playing field. I don't know.
Hmm.
Is that what you're getting at?
I don't level playing field doesn't feel as much as just looking to my peers from a place of that's where I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see me there. That's my people.
Yeah.
And creating my path from that place. And um I don't know, got a little personal here, more than I thought I would. I wasn't expecting going there.
Yeah. So where else are our words our power? You mentioned that, we have to cheerlead for ourselves. We
Mhm.
have to be our own best. We really have to be our only cheerleader, right?
Well, it's the one that matters the most, right? Because I mean, we can choose to believe other people's words. That's totally optional, and we can make it mean anything we want to. But I think I also like to think about in parenting or in coaching that choosing our words have power in those moments, and being aware of what we speak. And because it can be a very vulnerable place,
Mhm.
and there's power in not speaking. um Maybe that's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
um
Well, and that's
but
what I was getting at with the person, I heard something about them and I decided not to speak it
right,
because of the power of staying in integrity with myself.
being still, yeah,
Yeah.
and being in that moment and just letting it be and not harboring that negativity.
Yeah. And not passing it on.
Mhm.
Because that's one thing Ruiz talks about. When we pass words on, it's like passing on poison.
Poison, can you just see it? I think of that.
Yeah.
I don't know what that commercial was, probably for Scope mouthwash back in the day. And people would, were speaking and they would show like the odor cloud coming out of their
Yeah.
mouth. As I get a visual on that, like if you're speaking negatively, you have that gassy odor cloud coming out of your mouth. And just
I
think if you're
love
speaking
that.
to yourself that way in a gassy odor cloud. I'm laughing at myself.
No, I love that analogy because that is so true. We have the ability. I mean, our words are going to go out
Yeah.
into the world.
Yeah.
And we have the ability to send out positivity.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
have the ability to send out
flower clouds and
yeah,
unicorns and daisies.
yes,
Rainbows and daisies.
and not in flattery. I mean, that's not we're not talking about flattery here.
In love and spirit.
In love, yeah. I mean, it's like I don't know why I keep coming back to the dog analogy, flipping over on its belly. My dog is always flipping over on her belly. She loves for somebody to rub her belly, but that vulnerability, we do need to be vulnerable with people, but it needs to come from love, from the flowers, the daisies, it needs to come from that space, not from a space of negativity with the bad breath. The poison.
Gassy odor cloud in case.
Gassy odor cloud.
And I think it even had the words of all the things that you had for lunch, like garlic and salmon.
Yeah. All of those things. But that is power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Our
It
words
is.
are going to go out and hit people one way or another. So how are we choosing to hit them? with some tuna breath, or are we going to hit them with some peppermint?
Tuna. Thankfully, we all live in the Zoom world now. But our words still have power. Oh, coffee breath. Yeah. Mm. I am making my coffee weaker these days, by the way.
Oh, okay.
If I
I thought
told
you
you-
were off coffee.
I know. She's on, she's off. What is she? She has decided that she makes a 12-cup pot of coffee with 1 scoop, 1 tablespoon of coffee grounds.
That seems like a good.
Yeah, it does. And I do notice like some nice small changes. One, I still get a little taste of the coffee. I still put my cream in it. And I'm not all anxietied up on my
on your caffeine. Huh.
Yeah. Or acid, right? Not getting all the acid in there.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. So what else do we have to say about our words, our power?
Well, I am looking through my notes as well.
You know, you were talking about this being a spiritual journey, the words having a spiritual effect. And Ruiz talks about sin begins with the rejection of yourself. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, because that is ultimately because you're creating your hell on earth, right? How you speak, how you think. And in essence, if you are speaking these words negatively, you are rejecting of the self, and the self knows, and then you are suffering and you're beating yourself up. It's that inward spiral, that inward circle that we talk about that becomes so insidious. And we all went off that carousel of tornado of thinking.
Yeah. Brooke talks about how we have to, how we are worthy simply because we are a human being on this planet. And I like to think about it from that point of view. I think that's where they kind of connect here, because we are a human being on this planet. We are worthy. And to accept that means we do not cut ourselves down. We don't say negative things about ourselves. We don't believe negative things about ourselves.
Yeah. That's a really good connection, because that is a super common coaching thing, is not good enough, which is it taps right into that.
Yes.
And it took a while for me to wrap that concept around my brain to understand exactly what it means, and then get to a level to coach on it, to help someone else see that it's not true. But it also requires thought work. Like, you have to do the work. It doesn't come magically.
No, but when you've been coaching someone, or when I've been coaching someone for a while, and it's really, they're doing that work consistently, it is so fun. I mean, you know when a client has been doing the work and when they've just been showing up once a week to talk to you. Yeah. It's obvious what's happening, because when they're doing the work every day, when they're working on their thoughts every day, they're working on being true to themselves, holding themselves in high esteem, doors
power
start opening. It's like pop, 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 pop. Not immediately, but it gets to that point where it gets really fun and exciting. And you're like, okay, looks like we've got this one under control. What's the next thing we've been working on? And it just moves so quickly at that point.
Oh, I love that. I got a visual of like that energetic field just moving, because when the doors open, it is that energetic value when you believe in your own self and your own self-worth.
Yes.
That how it becomes expansive.
Yes. Yes. But that doesn't happen.
No.
If you're not working on it. It's a daily practice.
And it's so weird to even talk about, because I think this in my own head and try to come to that place. Like, when did I get this connection? When did this become this? But it's through that communication with self, through that connection with the self.
I can't really think of when it happened. Like, I couldn't tell you. There's not a time that I have, suddenly the light bulb went on and angels started singing. But but it happened.
I do remember the first time I wrote, I trust myself,
Yeah.
because I'm sure that was the beginning of the shift,
Mm-hmm.
because it is still memorable. So I think that, maybe it was a special moment. It was just authentic and just pen to paper. And I'm like, what?
Well, and I love that example because I don't remember and you do, which means that there's no right or wrong way.
Right.
I mean, some people are going to find it a specific memorable moment. Other people, the doors just start opening and you suddenly realize that you're looking at things differently.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one way. There's
And
no right way.
and it's not like we're always in these states of mind either.
No.
I hope, are we clear on that? Are we clear, y'all?
That's a really good point, because a couple of
We're not
days
living in this
ago-
Zen state every moment and just
No. I was fighting all the negative words a couple of days ago. I really was. I was in like an ugly space where nobody was doing anything right.
Mhm. Yeah.
But you know why? Looking back, I can look back and see it's because I wasn't trusting in myself. I felt like there were a lot of things going on and I wasn't handling them the way I was supposed to. And I was stressed and there they are. It's all the negativity that you let in.
Yeah.
That's human. That's being human, folks. And I wish there was a magic way that we could solve that one time and it never comes back, but that's not the way life is set up.
No, it would be nice. Yeah. I have to say though, I think I probably said it on the last podcast. I'll say it again. There is something also to be said moving through this past year for me personally.
Mm-hmm.
When things are moving energetically better, it is a great place to be. And I can just want to speak some truth to that and some relief that it hasn't always been perfect and it has not always been easy. And
well, that's why we do the work, not because we're trying to reach a state of perfection, but we're trying to reach a state where we always know we can come back to the level, the balance.
Yeah. And I'm really appreciating this conversation, because there is so much about how we show up to podcast and my thoughts and like what's on my mind. And so it just like my goal is to lose 20 pounds. And as a weight loss coach, sticking that out there it's some real shit.
How are your words your power? Let's wrap up that way.
Yeah, I'm going to love myself there. I'm going to be kind to myself. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to make a plan and I'm going to work through some urges and I'm going to normalize the whole process.
Yeah. You're going to make mistakes along the way because that's part of normalizing the process.
It's going to be doable. It's not going to be big drastic changes. It's going to be small changes.
Yeah. And it's going to be a little messy sometimes.
I'm feeling like we'll find out. Right now, it is a good thing. It's very clear.
Yeah.
Right now. And I needed to get through the weeds to get to this clear spot.
Yeah.
So, and that, I think that I just want to make that real that, this past year, my life, I drove up to get gas and I drove off with the gas nozzle in my car because I had a lot on my mind this year.
Yeah.
And I think I have forgiven myself and forgiven others and released a lot of baggage and healed some wounds and been through some dark days to get to the light, to get to this space. And just want to say that, I did a post the other day about trust your struggle. Mm-hmm. And it was worth it. I resisted a lot but I never quit literally throwing the ball back, trying to, figure it out.
Yeah.
And then it stuck and I got there and I cleared a path.
And a lot of it had to do with how you talk to yourself through that.
Yeah. And having some support along the way. Thank you,
Mhm.
Sonya. Thank you to my team, my coach. Let me do my Snoop Dogg. I like to thank me.
Well, there is though. I mean, we do have that power. We resist that so much. I can't thank me because that people think I'm going to be arrogant. But you said this the other day. Who's the best healer of you?
Me.
Yeah.
Double me. It's which is so interesting thinking about our last podcast. I remember, I don't know what I was listening to something and they were, when you take things personally, it's all me, 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 me.
Yes.
But not in a great way.
No.
But when you're in the power of your words, you're in that space of that healing me.
Yes.
Healing me, healing you.
Yes.
Loving me, loving you.
Yeah.
That was my odor cloud. Y'all didn't see my hands. The words.
Daisies and
words.
rainbows.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Woo.
I don't know that we can end on anything better than that.
It's all good.
All right. So we would love for you to share this podcast with someone who needs our message, who's working on themselves, or maybe they just need to hear that their words are where their power resides.
Mm-hmm.
We would love to coach you on that. If you're not convinced of it, or if you're trying to work on it and you feel like you need a guide along that path, we are happy to be there. You can find more about my coaching at sonyagreencoaching.com or on Instagram at Sonya, SONYA_green coaching.
And you can find me. I coach exclusively for the No BS weight loss program. And any search of No BS and Corinne Crabtree will find you there. If you want to follow me on Instagram, that would be just Judy, JUSTJUDIE. And that's it. And I would love to coach you too.
All right. We'll see you next week, folks.
Bye, y'all.